Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the League of Inches podcast. Round 19 review. We are officially done and dusted with all these stupid major buy rounds, mini buy rounds, whatever you want to call them, all over with now. We are on the run home to the finals. How good is it? But we are here to discuss all the major talking points to come out of the recent round 19 of the NRL. Myself and Jakey boy is back on deck. So, how's things, mate?
Yeah, things are good, mate. In the middle of the holidays, down at my Mrs. Parents' place, but we're heading back home into condo tomorrow. So, a bit of a big week.
Big week indeed. Safe travels with that one as well. Let's quickly attack the ladder, how it stands at the moment. So the Raiders on top, 32 points. The Storm and the Bulldogs next on 30 points. The Warriors round out the top four in 28. The Broncos are on 24 in fifth. The Panthers are sixth on 23 points. And then Manly and the Roosters round out the eight on 22 points, with the Sharkies also just behind on 22 points. Dolphins outright 10th on 20 points alone. The Dragons 18 points in 11th. The Cowboys 17 points. Then the Knights, Tigers, Eels, and Rabbits all on 16 points. And then last is still the Gold Coast Titans. Anything so far sticking out from you or at you for that ladder, Jakey boy? Anything changed?
Look, the only main thing I can say is that the Panthers are fifth now. They're looking at a sniff in the top four, considering they were coming last. Or they're fifth, looking at it on. They're fifth because they got 23 points. That's what it says.
Your Broncos haven't been updated yet from whatever you're looking at.
Oh, right, yeah, fair enough. Well, okay, they're still sitting within a hair's breadth of the top four, which is, in my opinion, the kind of the big story, I suppose. Almost, I mean, the Raiders will probably be the big story of 2025, but they're next up. They're coming from last place to there. It's crazy.
They I think every single team above them right now, and even those just below them, will be going, holy shit, we're now going to deal with the Penrith Panthers come finals time, which I feel like a lot of those would have thought, how good would this be, a free shot at the stumps effectively at this competition, not having to beat the Penrith Panthers to get there. Now it's going to be a whole different ball game with all those players coming back from Origin. Looking fit, I guess. Martin's the big one there at the moment, but he might be out for a couple of weeks, but he'll be there for come finals time, fully fit. It'd be great to see. No, bless me.
Bless me.
Bless me. For me, the Roosters, 8th position. From the season that they've had, everyone wrote them off and basically said they've got no hope this year. This is a write-off year. They'll build and maybe next year, things like that. Tell you what, if this is a rebuild year and they're right now getting their best squad on the park and they're sitting in 8th position, look out. I actually think the Roosters are starting to really go under the radar. I know that they probably won't be a team that wins the competition, but I reckon they're going to cause a fair few headaches in the lead up to the final series and also in the final series itself. I really think they're starting to become a really good football side. Their youngsters at the moment are flying, and I think Sam Walker, give him a couple more weeks just to get some confidence in around obviously his knee and his body in general. I think he'll be primed within the next 3 or 4 weeks to really start taking this comp by the balls.
Yeah, well, one of the main things that you sort of said, and I think I agree with you at the start of the season, was like, if they can hang in, that was the main thing we said. If they can hang in and around the 8, they didn't have to be up there in the 8. They didn't have to be as long as they weren't coming near the bottom. If they could hang and they could wait for Sam Walker to come back, we said they have a crack. That's where they'll turn their season around, or they'll really make a push. And that's what it looked like to me. I mean, they had some growing pains and some issues with him coming back, and there were some errors and whatever. But it was they played well. I mean, they were versing a Dragon side who were on they were on. Do you know what I mean? And they both came at each other really well, and they managed to eke out that victory kind of thing at the end. So, and the scariest thing about this Roosters side is, like you just said, they're young. These guys could grow together and become a real threat again, a force in the competition. Yeah, especially with the form that Teddy's in. I think they might even try to re-sign him on a 1 or 2 year deal kind of thing when he comes off contract next year. You'd have to if he's staying in this form. And then so they could do anything.
He's not slowing down at all at the moment. He's been phenomenal to watch. Let's get into the talking points for this week. First up, we've spoken about him a lot the last few weeks, but this time we're going to talk about him in a positive, and that is the Sharkies with, first of all, they obviously got the win against the Dolphins Friday night, but I think I want to shout out Nicho Hynes because that was probably his best performance I've seen him play in a Sharks jersey. I will go as far as saying since his Dally M year. I know that's probably a very big call out there, and there's people going, what? But I honestly feel like that was a real big statement game from Nicho. He stood up, he did what he needed to do. He was the guy out there. I know we'll talk about another guy in a minute that was really, really good next to him, but I just thought from the pressure that Nicho gets on a weekly basis, which is to the extreme compared to anyone else in that squad, to come out and put on the performance that he did against a good opposition. The Dolphins have been in really good form. I thought that was sensational. The fact that he was so good, happy and confident actually running the football, Jake, I thought that was a great sign for the Sharkies moving forward. And I think it also, and it points into, I guess, part two of the talking point here, which we'll get to shortly. But it's quite funny that someone named Trindle wasn't as heavily involved this time. And they seem to put on their best performance for a long time, looking like they knew who was one and who was two this game.
Well, it's what we've been calling for all season. Is we've said, or at least I know I've mentioned it a few times, is that idea of like he's the 7, and your 7 should be your commanding player. And I never thought that Trindle had that 7 quality in him. And I've been real harsh on Hynes. I've been really, really harsh on Hynes over this season. Tonight he definitely shut. Well, not tonight when he played, I suppose. In that game, he definitely shut me up. I think it was really a game where you could, like you said, you could say he was the guy. Like it was a Nicho dominant game, and when he does stand up and when he does take command of that team, it's a different Shark side, as you saw.
Yeah.
I know it took a little bit of time. Like it was a very close game going into the half, but then sort of in that back half was when he sort of took over. But you can see the difference when he does take over and that he makes to that football side. It's a huge difference. And obviously, look, yeah, it was a close game. The Dolphins almost came away with it and snuck away with it at the end and whatever, but they didn't. And then he not only, like when Dolphins had that bit of momentum, he sort of helped put it away right towards the end as well. Like that's the important part is he never stopped playing through the 80.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, very impressive game from him.
It was really, really impressive. And I thought what was even better was he did this not just being the guy there, like it actually was a team effort, because then I looked at someone like Blake Brayley who I feel like he's had a really good 6-week period at the moment. He has been building and building and getting better and better, almost to that sort of form that we all predicted at the start of the year. We had AFB obviously going to the club. We thought this would be a hooker's dream now, getting to play behind or off the back of AFB. And we're starting to see that a bit now. I think he's doing a lot more in attack, which he's never been really noted for. I think in his junior days, everyone who has watched or heard of Blake knows that he's got that in him, but just for some reason at the first grade level, his running game hasn't quite always been there, where we're starting to see it a lot more in attack, where they're actually using him as, I guess, the first point of attack, where it used to always be for defenses, just to worry about him going straight off the deck to Trindle or Hynes, and that was the way their attack sort of started. Now this adds a whole different element to the Sharkies' attack, and I think it makes them extremely dangerous moving forward. Like I wrote them off a couple of weeks ago. I still don't think they can win the comp. They've got too much happening at the moment, but I do think, similar to the Roosters, if they can keep this going and they can have these two guys, especially on a tear like they did on the weekend, they're a really dangerous football side, and it's probably their best game as a team all year.
Yeah, I think I can agree with that one. It's a bit interesting. I don't know why, considering I played the position, I never really considered Blake Brayley much at all when I think about the Sharks. It's weird. I never really thought about him much in the sense of like you're always talking about Trindle and you're talking about Hynes, right? Like they're your two big name players in that club that are like, supposed to win them games and things like that. And I never really considered the fact that I never really thought Blake Brayley was having much of an impact. I thought in that game he picked his moments really well. Like he really picked his moments to run well when he chose to. Whenever he did it, he made maximum impact, and he realized that going through the ruck was working for them. It worked for the Sharks all game. They're going through that ruck, they rolled him. But I think that if Blake can be that little bit more dominant in his role, it will take the pressure off Hynes a bit more and let Trindle play his natural game as well. Like I think if Blake can take that little bit of extra, that's what we'll see from the Sharks moving forward. And I hope this isn't a one-out thing. I like the Sharks. I want them to succeed. I want to see them attacking everywhere on the field because they have so much strike in their outside backs, and they have that punch, especially with Fanua Blake. I think there's question marks around some of their other forwards, but they still have punch in the middle that they should be having that role, and Blake Brayley should be looking to scoot most times. I feel like after Fanua Blake runs, he's always going to. That's when he's going to roll that rock. Get one forward first, get Adam Fanua Blake after, get him in after that. Should be great.
Yeah, no, absolutely spot on. I agree. This continues to build. I think the Sharkies, as I said earlier, will really start troubling some teams above them on the ladder to sneak in and for hopefully for their fans' sake can play some finals football this year. From the Storm point of view, obviously a nice win over the Knights, but I just wanted to pinpoint Jerome Hughes, who once again I feel like had a masterclass of a performance, and he's actually features in our player of the week, which I'll get to now actually, and ask you, Jake. So we've got the vote happening at the moment. So we've got Blake Brayley, Jerome Hughes, and Tane Tulpiki. Who would you have as the player of the round out of those three?
I think it's got to be Hughes. I think.
Yeah.
4 try assists is huge in any game. Like you're not typically going to get beaten. And a 40-20 he kicked as well. So he kicked a 40-20 in that as well. So, he's obviously doing a lot of work in that game to get his team on the front foot. And not that the other two didn't, but, I don't think that their impact was quite 4 try assists and a 40-20 worth out of it.
I feel like a lot of people, because, look, 8 to 12 months is a long time in rugby league, but I think a lot of people out there have forgotten just how good Jerome Hughes' year was last year. And I feel like we're getting glimpses over the last probably 4 to 6 weeks of footy at the moment where he's starting to really go back into that Jerome Hughes. And it's a scary proposition for opposition teams because you already know you got Munster when he comes back, who will be just obviously full of emotion still, but he'll be so driven now to make sure this year is a special one for himself, for his family, for his team. Then you have Harry Grant, who's just starting to come into some better form after I feel like probably a quite a year on his front, to be fair. You've obviously got Pappy, who's been I feel like for majority of the year, he's been really good. He has quieted down a little bit in the last 2 to 3 weeks. Obviously, there's been an injury there as well. But before that, I did notice he wasn't quite the Pappy that we've seen over the last. Maybe he was carrying a bit of an injury. I'm not too sure. But then you throw in Jerome Hughes, and more importantly, that combination he has with Eli Katoa. I'll go out and say that could probably be the most lethal half and edge back rower combination in the competition. When they're on, they are almost unstoppable. You just can't get the right defense because they'll pass, they'll do the short ball, they'll do the out ball. There's the kick that Eli Katoa can outleap most backline plays. It seems like at the moment. That's such a dangerous combination. It's led by Jerome Hughes. Like again, Jake, I feel like he's just getting into that form where everyone's going, all right, we know Melbourne's a team to beat in this competition, and it's probably because some of these guys like Hughes, that combination with Katoa is starting to fire up.
I'm going to make a controversial call right here, right now.
Do it.
Jerome Hughes is a better player when Cameron Munster is not on the field.
Ooh. I would go one step backwards from that. I'd say it's probably whenever Munster or Pappy aren't there, like one of those two, I feel like. Because I think when all four are on the field, we've talked about it in the past, or spoken about it in the past, I should say, they can sometimes get in each other's way a little bit, and one of them or two of them feels like they take a backwards seat, where if one or two of them are out, then the other two of the four just absolutely on a tear, which we saw on the weekend.
I'll explain my reasoning behind the call specifically with Munster. So yes, Pappenhausen, I agree with you that if it's sort of one or the other. But the reason I think specifically he's a better half when Munster's not there is, I've talked about this before, I feel like Munster brings an element of chaos that sometimes Jerome Hughes isn't ready for or doesn't like. Like, I think that he brings his own brand of, he'll play what he sees, and that's great, and Munster's a phenomenal player. I'm not even close to saying he's not. He's incredible, right? Where I'm at with this is I feel like Jerome Hughes actually plays better in like a proper structure, and he plays it better. Whereas Munster will sometimes throw that off and ruin that. And I think Wishart, when he's been playing, like last year, Wishart was alongside Hughes as well. I think that they're a better combination. I know that sounds crazy, but I think that Wishart and Hughes is a better combination than Wishart and Munster. And anyone can come at me for that. That's fine, but that's where I'm at.
That is an absolutely outrageous call. That is huge. Can you listen to what you're saying? Like, and I feel like I get where you're going with it. Like, I
get why it sounds crazy. I'm so with you. Like, I understand why what I'm saying sounds really dumb and really crazy, but it's the results that I see when they're not playing next to each other, and when they are playing next, like when he plays next to Wishart, the results. It just speaks for itself.
Do you think that's because we've spoken about that with the Sharks and things like that? Do you think that's something that they need to just bring up as a partnership, as a team? Because I think we've seen over the last 12, 18 months, even 24 months, Jerome Hughes really step into this elite halfback of the competition, where when this combination first started, it was all about Munster. Munster was the guy, and Hughes was the ex-fullback coming into the team and coming into this position. And it was a work in progress. They admitted to that for a number of years almost for that. But it's finally got to where it is now. Is that something they will have to address? Because like I said, we have recently spoken about that at length over the few weeks, so it's only fair to bring it up now, even though they're two elite players and it's a different sort of story. They're both performing, but you want to get the best out of, I guess, both, because what I mean by that is I feel like for Munster, he just plays himself no matter what. So I don't feel like Hughes going to that elite, like that level that he has been playing without Munster, with Munster there, will change anything, because Munster will still find ways to be involved with the game and do his freaky things that he does. I just feel like there might have to be a bit of a chat, because if they can turn it on like that, they'll win the comp. Hands down, they'll win the comp.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with you with that. It's not like I'm suggesting either of them should leave. I'm just suggesting they need to find a better way to play next to each other. I think they need to find a way that it suits both their styles, that when they play their own styles, it fits the team. And whether that might be, what it might be is that Harry Grant takes a step back in games. And he might have to, or Pappy has to take a step back and kind of go, like, I remember Trav mentioned this. He said, like, it tends to be that when one of them's having a really good game, the others can step back a little bit. But I don't think that's conducive to a good side. I think that you need to have your whole spine firing as best as they can in a game to be the best chance at winning comps, and that just makes sense to me. I think it's something like if they would have these discussions, I'm sure, and Bellamy would see what he wants to see and make those choices. I'll say this: if I was, and I'm not suggesting they let either of them go at all, but I'll say this: if I had to make a call on who I'd keep, Jerome Hughes.
You know what? I'm actually with you on that. Like, I'm with you on that. I would prioritize signing Hughes over Munster. I think, because it's tough, because at the same time they do have Pezzett coming through, and Pezzett can do a job, but he's not that. I know he's not the Hughes realm at the moment, but who knows what he'll turn into. Oh yeah, no, all right, no, I'll be with you for that. I will be with you, but let's go. Look, end of the day, let's just say this: the Storm are in a really great position. I feel like they're probably favourites to win the competition, and rightly so. I am still very, very big on the Raiders, though. I think underestimate the Raiders at your own peril. But Storm are doing good things.
Yeah, and I think that's completely fair. Yeah. I want to clarify real quick before we move on from this topic. It's not like I'm suggesting that they should either get rid of either of them. I think that both players are incredible, and they need to find a way to both turn that incredibleness on, but make it work for the squad.
Well said, mate. Well, you really hit that reverse brake on, and the lights are on, and you just reverse it in nicely to then take off once again. Now let you take off with this one. The Cowboys, we've bashed the Cowboys up a lot this year. I'm trying not to bash him with this point. I'm trying to more so have this as a genuine discussion because I think what we saw on the weekend with them, I know they lost to the Doggies. I feel like they should have won. That was a game they should have taken the 2 points home for that. There was a few opportunities there. The Drinkwater try, the kick out just managed to save. I do think it was slightly high. I think if that was done in early rounds when they had that crackdown happening at the start of the year, that would have probably got a penalty, a sin bin, maybe even a penalty try. So I think he just clipped him high. I get it. I like the call. I guess that the call for mine, it does suit, but at the same time, could have easily gone the other way, and I don't think anyone would have complained, similar to how not many have actually said much since from that. But I think the Cowboys were decent. I think there was just that little edge missing, and that the edge that I thought was missing was this halves headache they've got at the moment. Like, it's very clear Dearden's the guy. Dearden's Dearden at the moment for that team with Drinky. We know that's their two main go-to points of attack. It's very crucial now, and I think everyone's realised it, to get that middleman key. And when they had Clifford as that guy, I felt like we've seen the Cowboys play their best so far this year when Clifford was involved in the halves. Purdue, they've got big raps on him. He's had apparently this great junior career in the halves and things like that. I don't know too much about his junior career. I'll put my hands up now and say that. But all I'm going to judge on at the moment, I feel like junior career and coming into first grade are two completely different things. And all I've seen so far in first grade from Purdue, he's a fantastic center. He has a huge career ahead of him at the moment as an attacking center, no doubt about it. In the halves, it's just simply not working. It hasn't worked. I've never seen a player become two polar opposites of the versions of themselves than Purdue so far this year, whether it's him in the centers or him in the halves. It doesn't work. It's very clear. And I think Clifford was injured this week, so I can't say much about why they didn't pick him this week, but I was just watching it and I just thought to myself, it's so clear Clifford should be here. Now, I know I'm saying this and bringing it up because there has been times over the last month or two where Clifford has been fit and been put to reserve grade, where I think that's totally the wrong call. But if they want to win some games towards the back end of the year and make an unlikely challenge, I think it is now for the finals, they need to get that part, which is the crucial part, right. And I think, Jake, it's got to be Clifford.
Yeah, I think the Cowboys have fallen off a bit of a Clifford at the moment.
He was waiting.
Yeah, no, I actually agree with you a lot. I don't think that Purdue has done what he did in the Senate. I mean, he just hasn't had the same impact on games than he did when he was a center at the start of the year. He was looking fantastic. I mean, I unfortunately, not that we're talking about Supercoach here, but I unfortunately was a person who had him and sold him early because I was like, this guy's not doing too crash hot until he hit his stride, and then I hated my life because I kept watching him dominate in games. And so I suppose, but I don't remember his name actually. There was a young number 7 coming through, and they started with him at the start of the year.
Duffy.
Whatever happened to Duffy? Don't get me wrong. I'm not disagreeing with you.
Duffy? No, Duff.
No, it's Duffy. It's Duffy because Duffy was the Dragons fullback ages ago when Matt Duffy. No, so I agree with you on the Clifford point. I actually think he's a better choice to be in there. The question then would be, does he play 7 or 6? I think Dearden could easily slip back into that 6 role, but then does he disappear from games? And we'll get that in a second. Whatever happened to Duffy? I feel bad for the kid because they threw him into it. From what I'm aware, they threw him into it. He didn't kill it immediately, and then they kind of gave him the boot. So I didn't love that from scapegoat, I suppose. It's just a shame. He's only a young kid, coming through.
To be fair, they did turn their form around when they did make that change. They did become a better team. So, and that could just be one of those things where a young guy, the halves are a different story. I feel like with a lot of that's why, and I always go back to him. Isaiah Katoa is so mesmerizing at the moment because he's so young and doing what he's doing. Where I think people forget because there's those guys that come out of the blue, and like even Galvin's form to start his career has been really good. These few that work over the amount that don't work, and if you push them too early, that just destroys their career anyway. So I'd like to see him come back, but at the moment, I don't think it's really the team to do it because I think Peyton's under a fair bit of pressure at the moment and really needs some wins. I think it's evident that Purdue obviously is a center and can't be there. Clifford looks like he balances that the two main attacking players in their team up and together as perfect combination, as sort of that perfect glue. So you can't really put him in at the moment. And I do think this sort of overshadows for the Cowboys. I think they've got a really big middle problem. Their middles aren't that great.
No, I agree. Sorry. I thought you were going to expand on that a little bit more. I'm just trying to
I'll
look
let
here.
you.
So you got fair enough. Well, you got Jordan McLean. He was looking at making his Origin debut 2 years ago. I think it was 2 years ago at this point. He almost made it, and then he did that big injury on himself.
Got injured.
Was that? Yeah, he got injured. So I mean,
Yeah.
he's somebody there. Griffin Neem has actually been in decent form over the last few weeks, but he's nothing. He's nothing you're gonna poke a stick at. Look, Ruben Cotter, Jeremiah Nano, great. Like Jeremiah Nano's form has turned around this season. He put on some massive shots in that game. You know who I've only just realised I didn't even think about for ages. Where's Tomalolo? Is he injured?
I think, I believe he's injured at the moment. I
So that's a
believe he's
huge,
injured.
that's a massive out for them, having Tomalolo out because obviously when he turns it on, he can be that guy. And then you're looking at Thomas McKaylee, Cohen Hess hasn't been the same since friggin' 5 years ago, and I don't even remember Kai O'Donnell, so he can't be that memorable. So yeah, it's nothing you're looking at and going, this strikes fear into the heart of our enemies.
No. And that hurts. That hurts the playmakers and hurts the team in general. If you're not getting good go forward and consistent forward dominance on a rugby league field, you're going to find it extremely hard to win games consistently, which the Cowboys are currently doing.
Yeah, I agree. I'll come back to your point. I definitely think. Oh, I've just lost his name again. We were just talking about what's his name?
Duffy.
No, Clifford. Sorry. I definitely think that Clifford should be the guy. But then my question for you is: does he come back into the seven in the that guy role, or does he come in or in the sort of dominant half back, which is where he's been known to play, or do you see him shift into the six, or what like where would you see that happening?
Oh, I'd probably put him at 6 because I think Dearden now, after that Origin performance and just how he's been over the last 12 months or so, has now deserved and demanded that 7 jersey on his back. So I'd probably put him 6.
Fair enough. Yeah. Well, at this point, what can go wrong? I'd be trying whatever I can because I think you have Clifford in that team and they get over the Dogs in that game. That's what I'll say.
They would have won, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
100%. I actually fully on agree with that. I fully agree. Next up, the Warriors. A couple of talking points from today's games. The Warriors 34 points to 14. I just want to shout out. I've been, and I've mentioned a couple of times over the last few weeks since the Metcalf injury that I'm pretty worried about the Warriors. I still don't think they'll win the comp. I still don't think they can really challenge those elite teams anymore. I think Metcalf's a really big loss. But at the same time, I was a really big fan of what I've seen today, and it was led by Tanner Boyd. I feel like they're still going to be thereabouts for the remainder of the year. What are your thoughts?
It's really hard to tell, and the only reason I say that is because they're versing a Tigers outfit with a few out kind of thing. So it's not as if we're going into that sort of expecting probably much there from the Tigers. Like you're not going into that game going Tigers are like favourites to win this. Whether who hurt himself? Metcalf. Whether Metcalf's out or not, you're not expecting like Tigers to come up and win that. So I need more. I feel like I need another game. It needs to be against someone middle of the pack to see where they're at. That being said, they're not dropping out of the 8. I don't see them in 6 games left. They could pretty much lose all of them. They'd still should be pretty close. They can lose a few and still be in the 8 kind of thing. So they should be in the 8, but I don't see them once they are. I don't see them making it past round 1. That's where I'm sitting with the Warriors.
I think they'll win more than they'll lose in the run home. And I
You
just
reckon?
think Tanner Boyd straighten their attack up. And I feel like we all forget they've still got some really good players out there, some really good attacking players. And I don't think I know Metcalf's a massive loss, and Barnett's a huge loss. Like they're two just guns. A big call, but I'd actually leave Tuapiki in at fullback. Even when Nicho Klokstad comes back, I would leave Tuapiki at fullback. Every time he plays, he's an absolute star for him. In the top three performers every time he pulls on that jersey. I just couldn't take that fullback jersey away from him. And I think him there helps this, I guess, inexperienced halves pairing together flourish a bit more, because let's not forget Tuapiki and Tanner Boyd have been played in this remarkable New South Wales Cup Warriors team, who's on like a 14-game winning streak or something ridiculous that they're on. They've been two very key parts in that team as well. So they know each other's game very well. That's got to help them.
First of all, this whole season, I've never been a fan of having Charles Nicholl-Klokstad at fullback. I'll just tell you that right now. I think he's the third best fullback in the club and is playing fullback consistently. So I'd be having him in the centres. I've said this before. Anyway, I still believe that the best choice for fullback for this team, especially now that they have their most experienced or one of their best halves out, is Roger Tuivasa-Sheck. I'm a big believer of that, especially because we know that in the fullback role, he can carry teams to win games. He's done a lot of his career when he was at the Warriors before he left for Union and came back. And every time that he had to fill in that fullback role because someone gets injured or whatever happens, I've always found that he impresses me heaps, like immensely, every single time. That's where I'm at. I would have liked to see him, but at the same time, like you just said, Tuapiki and Tanner Boyd have a bit of that combination. So the fact that if he's going to play fullback, at least we know that they know how each other plays and can kind of shift in and do that. Look, I'm okay with it. I can live with Tuapiki playing fullback. My main thing for them is if they want to stay in that fight, I actually reckon you have to shift out Chance. Center wing. Probably center, in my opinion. I think he's a center, not a winger, but he can play on the wing pretty easily.
I agree. I'm a huge Tuapiki fan, so I will back him 100% to get the job done and can keep the Warriors in this fight. Let's go over to the Parramatta Eels Jason Rolls made a few big calls on this lineup today, and it's left a number of fans. I've copped a couple of messages and things like that about it in arms. They can't believe things. They can't believe that Dylan Brown. I've heard a few media talk about it as well so far. I've got my own say on this. Jake, I actually haven't seen or heard of you say much at all. So I want to go to you first.
I saved it just for you, just for the content.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for putting the content first. I'm glad you're living in this podcast content creator world now. What are your thoughts around this?
Funnily enough, I actually really liked it. I'll be honest with you, we're not making the 8. So I'm not sitting here with these notions of grandeur, sitting here going, we're going to win the comp this year. I'm being a realist this year, and it's not normal for me as a Parramatta fan to be a realist, but I am. We can win the next 3 games, and I'm still going to be sitting here going, you know what, we're not making the 8. Just keep playing for next year. I like that we're starting to blood Papali. Oh, sorry. I like that we're starting to blood. Yeah. I like that we're starting to blood Papali in 5/8. I love that, actually. But I also do believe that next week it won't be the same, because I believe that the only reason he put Brown there is because he didn't want to play Joey Lussick, and he wanted to test out a 2-hooker system. I think that's all he was trying to do. Like, I think that he had Papali ready to play 5/8. He had Dean Hawkins. That worked last time. And I think that he had Joey Lussick, who isn't going to be part of the plans for next year, so they just dropped him and went, right, Dylan, you're going to play the first bit, which is probably what I'd imagine Riley Smith will play for us. And then, Talon, you're going to come on pretty much when you would come on for Riley, and you're going to play out the rest of the game, and we'll see sort of how that goes. And I'm not that mad about it. I mean, I'm mad about the loss, and I'm mad about the way we played as a unit, but I'm not mad about those changes at all. I thought Dylan Brown could have been brought back in faster. We still have him on the books. We can still use him to try and get wins. But like, I get what he's. Like, I feel like I can see what Riles is trying to do. He's trying to blood the players in the positions and in the styles he's going to use them, and that's fine.
Yeah, I was a bit puzzled by all of this in terms of the reaction from Dylan Brown going to hooker and then coming off, because all year long, every man and his dog has been saying, and I think you're laughing because you know exactly what I'm about to say here, and you know it's true. Everyone's been bagging out Dylan Brown every single day of the year. He was only protected because then obviously the DCE saga happened, and then we've gone into other few things, but we had the population. Sorry, I got a bloody hair in your mouth. We had a population, a rugby league population, bagging this bloke out, saying to Riles and about Parramatta, first of all, how do you have him in the half still? He's been shocking all year. Suck shit to the Newcastle Knights. What a stupid signing this has been. How poor has this been? It finally happens that the changes happen. Joe Ashpapali, who it's a look into the future, happens. We're not going to win the comp this year. We're not even going to make finals. So what's the best thing to do for a club in this position moving forward, which everyone always says to drop players like this, so to start planning into the future? You bring the guys on that will be there next year to start getting a bit of a head start on the teams that are, yes, fighting for the comp this year, but you know what? They'll take a bit longer to come back and all that sort of thing. They'll get new combinations and stuff. You can get on the front foot with that. So I don't like the fact that Parramatta are in this situation, not at all. But what I will understand and respect is we've got to do this. Like, this is where we're at as a club.
Oh, and I'm fully with you. Like, obviously, I wish we could be in, fighting for finals or whatever, and have Moses back and have Brown back and all of this, but we don't. Brown is obviously there, but like, we don't have a full strength squad. We're fighting to even come close to winning games at the moment, and Jason Riles is trying to test out combinations and test out the different things that is going to work for him in the future and what he's looking towards. I have no issues with that. I really don't. If it costs us to lose some games in this competition, sure. His job security is 100% for the next year. He could come last this year. His job security is 100%. We all saw this happen before, and we all talk about it all the time. Where Serraldo, same thing. Okay, he was losing games all the time, and he was trialing new things with the players he had. Unfortunately, the players that let us down today were not our new purchases. Were not our new players we've had coming up from the juniors. They were not our new purchases. They're our old players. They're our players that are still there from the Brad Arthur era. They're the ones that are letting us down. Except for that one missed tackle from Jack Williams and Paulo. Paulo was one of them, but Jack Williams as well from against Tungo. That just don't even get me started. But other than that one, I think our main issue was from all the players from the Brad Arthur era today. Like, it's not. All I'm seeing this season is green shoots. We're a seed. Green shoots are popping out. Like, they're like the things that Riles has come in and done is starting to see. We're starting to see improvements. We talked about him on this podcast. Dylan Walker. What a difference maker he is to this side. And he's someone we brought in mid-season, and it works perfectly. I won't go too in-depth because, everyone gets bored of us talking about Eels all the time. But my main thing is with Dylan Brown. Sorry?
I was about to say, we've hardly talked about him in recent times. That's why I wanted to bring it up today, because I just find it funny. And the other thing I wanted to say about Dylan Brown, everyone's bagged him. His form this year and his season overall has been poor.
Yeah.
And that's saying probably politely. Like, he has had a very, very poor year, in my opinion. So a change was bound to happen. Like, this dropping could have easily happened a month or two ago. And I just find it funny. And to be fair, I don't think he was that bad at hooker. Like, the commentary in Ennis was talking about him hasn't run yet and things like that. That's not necessarily the style that we play. Our style isn't always the hooker runs every set. Like, and you can't expect. He gave crisp service. He did well in defense. His effort in areas and energy was there. For mine, he did a job and let the halves do what they needed to do. So I don't think it was that big of a deal at all. And I was just very amused. And shout out to the draft chat because there's a few in there listening to this, no doubt. But they love to have little shots at the Eels here, and I don't know why. We suck at the moment, so and they just
Keep us while we're down.
like everyone like loves to kick the Eels for some reason. They find us a threat or something. I don't know why, but if anything, it should be obviously you feel sorry for us, but I really don't get the uproar. I just don't. I don't get it at all.
Look, I don't think it's going to stick around next week. I believe that Mitchell Moses will be back next week, if not the week after, but I'm pretty confident he's pretty sure. Look, he could be back next week, could be back next week after. I hope they rest him, let him hopefully try to get through the season uninjured. That'd be great. But anyway, I don't think it's going to happen when we have...
Ross was asked it in the presser and he mentioned one more week.
Right. Basically, Riley Smith's back next week. I know that much. So he's back next week. Talon De Silva's clear to go. We're not going to be playing Dylan Brown again in hooker. We tried something. Okay. Sure, the coach tried something. God, let it happen. Like, we're coming third last in the comp. Who cares? You know? Again, we're not making the 8. So you try these things. And if it came off, everyone goes, Riles, you're an absolute, like, legend. You're a hero, you know? And, like, it's just because it didn't work doesn't mean it wasn't the right thing to try. You know, it's a good opportunity to let Joash be the 5'8", and, you know, we gave that a crack. And that's actually, this is something I wanted to bring up with you. From what I have seen of Papali so far in 5'8", I'll be honest, I know it's only been 2 games, I haven't been in love. And I'm hoping throughout this season we do play him in 5'8" more, and I see more from him, because at the moment I haven't been very impressed. What are your thoughts?
I was going to bring this up actually, so I'm glad you did. I'm the same. I like, the thing is, I said all along, I feel like the club should have chased Sandon Smith for the next 2 or so years, and Papali for mine's an exciting player. I think we'll see a different version of Joash once Moses is back, a lot more dominant player who will literally just control the side, no matter what side they are on, things like that, and just be that major voice. Like, Footy Dean's been fantastic. Don't get me wrong. I feel like he's done the job. But Moses will just go that next level, and I think that he will help Joash. And I will say now, I actually hope they keep Joash at 6 for the rest of the year. No matter what unless he plays extremely bad, and then obviously yes, drop him, because you just got to, sometimes that's how you get the best out of him. But I would keep him at 6. I'd probably have Dylan Brown
on the bench
if we're playing him. Probably on the bench as that sort of lock forward, sort of a lock at the moment. Sorry to say, I'd actually drop Hopgood. I think he's been so poor this year, just week in, week out, poor, lazy efforts, and not held accountable. Like, yep, this week he's finally been dropped to the bench. I'd go another step forward and say you've got to start to get back to what you were before all that back injury happened in that Origin game, because he's not been the same player since. He obviously has a confidence issue plus maybe a body issue. Go and fix it. Go and sort it out with a look towards next year, where we will need him to probably play in the prop positions, in my opinion, and be a lot more mobile. I'd probably just have Walker start. It worked today. I think we started quite well. We looked good. I think a couple of junior moments really let us down at that, and just sort of losing the ball. Like, we forced some of the stupid offloads, which was a bit annoying. But at the same time, I feel like, Dylan Brown coming off the bench in that sort of lock forward position isn't the worst. So, yeah, some people are thinking, well, that's already 2 bench spot positions gone, with back sort of players like Talon De Silva will be on there with Dylan Brown. But if you're playing him as a lock forward, it's a forward.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's not with an addition there. If a half does go down, we've got the advantage of having one on the bench. I think that's probably how I would go moving forward.
I'd give Hopkins some time in reserve grade too. I want to see him find his form again, because I still think he's a player that is deserving of, like, I want him. I don't want to lose Hopkins. Yeah. I think he's a fantastic player. I've talked about this before. I was so excited when we got him. I think he could use some time in reserve grade, and I actually think that, you know, having a Dylan Walker, a more agile lock sort of swapping would actually not be a bad idea. I'll say one last piece on it, and then I'm good. You know, I'm happy. I believe that as much as I love him, I want him to succeed. So I want to see him do great things, which is Joash Papali. I want to see him, develop and become incredible, and I hope he does. And I want to give him time to do that. So, he's played 2 games. He played a little bit in reserve grade. Jerome Hughes wasn't the halfback that he was when he first switched into the halves. You know what I mean? Like, you got to give him time, and I think he will succeed. I want to say that we have Lorenzo Talatina coming through, and I think he's a freak. I think worst comes to worst, if it doesn't work out, I think we see. I don't think we still go outside of the club. I still would put him as my next man up. Lorenzo I struggle with this one. Talatina from SG Ball. So he'd be 19, I believe. But yeah, he'd be my next man up.
Ready to go?
I reckon.
He needs Moses to be fit, in my opinion, to get a chance. You don't want to be putting him in next to Footy Dean.
No, that's fair enough. But yeah, I was just saying that would be my next port of call, as opposed to looking outside of the club.
Fair. Last point of the night. The poor old Gold Coast Titans have a lot going on at the moment, and not just on the field where they're a dog's breakfast. Off the field, they're even more of a dog's breakfast. They're probably a dog's breakfast mixed in with some dog shit, if I'm being honest, because by all reports, they've lost today, tonight, which means Des is gone. Nothing confirmed. We're recording this at just before 9:30 right this present time, and no news has come out. So I don't know if by the time you listen to this, news might have changed. But Jake, where are we at with the goal? Lot going on. They've just recently had their half share in the business. Now it's gone into one. The Frizzels have taken over all of it, so they're full on loading the club up with cash. By all reports, they're going to be changing everything, the jerseys included. They want a total revamp of this club. I'm going to say right now, this is the last chance. This is honestly, for mine, they've got a 3 to 5 year window to get this right. Otherwise, if I was NRL, I'd be knocking on the door saying we can go do a central sort of Queensland ippy sort of team who we feel like will be much better suited to this and will have a better chance. Look at the Dolphins. The Dolphins have now, it's year 3, and they're flying. They look I know they've got the much better reserve grade competition. They've been around for so long, but every decision and call, they just need to get it right. And they've got football people there. The Titans, for mine, are missing those football people, those identities there. Like, you're paying Gordy Tallis money to be a whatever he is at the club. He's not helping. They need help at the club. They need proper football administration figures in there. They need a Gus, dare I say it. They need that Gus.
Yeah, I mean, how many Gus's are there, though? Let's be honest. Like, there's
not many, but you need to find one. They need help.
I do. I understand that. I think that what the Frizzels are coming in to do is going to be the best thing for them. I think they need this total revamp.
They've been there, though. They're not coming in. They're just taking ownership of the full club now. So where they had 50-50 or something.
Yeah, but that means they can make all the decisions they want. And I actually think that's going to be I think that's going to be a win. I think the fact that they're going to rebrand, revamp, redo everything is needed. I think the club itself is just awful, to be honest. And it has been. When are we ever not talking about this? When are we ever going, geez, the Titans are flying now? Like, it's just not happening. At no point since I can remember the Titans. The last time I remember seeing the Titans, fantastic movie. The last time I remember the Titans being in a final, and this might be wrong, but this is the last one I remember, was actually the 2009 grand final where the Eels beat them to from 8th position to move on. I don't remember them being in a final since then, and that's too far
that
away.
Game.
That was a good game.
The SFS. That was a great game.
But my main point, I suppose, is it's not the coach, it's not the players, it's culture. Like you just said, there isn't a culture at the club. Or there isn't a successful culture, that's for sure. So there needs to be a revamp, a redo, a rebrand, and I'm all for that. I'm 100% for that.
I can't stress this enough either. This next coach is so important because they cannot lose Tino for Arsaw Mala'au. If they lose Tino in the next 12 months with all these stupid get-out clauses he's got now once every year, which I'm still so surprised the fact that that has hardly been spoken about in the media. If that was a Sydney club, that would be front and back pages every day, spoken on every podcast out there, every show. The fact that it's the Gold Coast, they've just sort of let it slide under the cracks, but they've got their star man who can get out of their club basically whenever he wants on a yearly basis is ridiculous. It's they lose him, they're done. For mine, they'll lose for Feeder at the end of the year. That's not working. So I feel like whether there's a new coach or whatever, he'll go. Like he just needs to get out of the Gold Coast. It's just see you later. It's done. But they don't keep Tino, the club's done. And at the moment, I'm really worried for him next year because Foz has just announced his retirement. He's been that glue that for mine has made them look better. Whenever Foz has played, I feel like they're a much more calm football
Balanced.
side. Actually, yeah, a bit more balanced of a football side. Next year, they don't have that anymore. They'll have Keeney back
Yeah.
into the fray, plus their other two fullbacks, plus some outside backs who just want to attack, really. Man, it's a huge, like even like a huge 2 or 3 months coming ahead for the Titans. They need to. Des will be gone, no doubt about that. Whether it's now or they wait to the end of the season, but they'll get at the moment. The big one is Brad Arthur. They reckon Brad will be in.
Mm.
Ooh.
And look, here's the thing about Brad is at least he has a track record to say he's done this before. He's taken a club out of basically the shit. He's taken them out of the
Similar
shambles.
colours.
Yeah, similar colours even. Out of the shambles and taken them to a consistent finals team with his style and the way he plays. And I think that, I actually didn't see how he did it over at Leeds. I haven't really been hearing much. I don't listen. I
Well,
don't. Yeah, so, you know, showing that and I know he's interested in coming back in the NRL. And to be honest with you, I'll be completely honest with you, I don't hate him as a choice. I think there might be some, I can't think of them off the top of my head, but there might be some better ones. But whoever it is, their number one job, like you said, is to convince Tino to stick around because he is the most loyal player to that club. So, he's had opportunities to leave, and he just wants to. He wants to see them succeed, and he wants to be the reason that they succeed. And he's that culture player. He's that culture player you need to have around your club, and he would die for the club kind of thing. I think he's the type of person you want. So whoever the coach is that they get in, that needs to be their number one thing is to convince Tino of the future of the club and that there is a future to this club that they can help them achieve. That's the main thing.
Yeah. Last bit on just Des. Go back to Des for a second. Actually, and it's the first time I've thought about this actually, but obviously it's done. If he gets sacked, say this week, the Australian job is still open. I actually feel like for Des, his club coaching days are over with after this. I feel like it's done and dusted. I wouldn't be surprised and shocked if he actually went into like a rep football side of things and coach just for a couple more years to go because shorter campaigns, he feels like that coach now where he's got that old school mentality about him still, which doesn't seem to quite work anymore at clubland. But we've seen with Madge last year for the Blues, and I'm not saying put him forward for the Blues job, but someone like
God, I
Australia,
hope
which
not.
no, I'm trying to word this right so it doesn't sound disrespectful, but I feel like at the moment, the Australian job and the dominance that they've had for so long, like it's the pressure environment's not quite there than what Des has been under for the last 5 or 10 years or whatever it's been. So, look, if he had that coaching itch still, he wanted to stay in the game, I wouldn't mind him being like an international, even it doesn't have to be Australia. He can go and just do maybe one of the island nations or something like that. But maybe just one of those international coaches for a couple of years and then off he goes. But even if just off he goes now and that's it, I feel like he's been a good coach. I think the game has gone away from him a little bit over the last probably 3 or 4 years. It's been a tough slog at the Gold Coast, but no, not many have succeeded, if any.
Yeah.
Good on him. But do you like the international side?
I would say that if he was going to do it, not that I want him to be the coach for Australia because I want us to succeed, but at the same time, I think he'd be going into an environment where he's getting a guaranteed strong side, and he can kind of do what he wants with that. But I think kind of the game's past him a little bit. I think coaching's, and I think he'll want to have a break from it because to be honest with you, his last 2 tenures at 2 different clubs have just been pretty much abysmal. I think, like I said, I think coaching's past him, and I think once he announces his retirement, that'll be him. I think he'll just call it because, um, you know, I know this sounds crazy. I'm a believer that, like, when you go to that international level with the quality of players you have in, like, the Australian side and stuff, you actually don't need potentially as much experience as a coach. You also need to be able to pick a strong side. Like, I know there's coaching, there's things involved, but let's be real here. Like, if you're picking, like, the most gun side, Australian side there is, you're gonna, when you come up against, like, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but I'm being honest about, like, Fiji or Italy, or, like, the young, the less, developed football nations, whatever. Like, you're going to win. It comes down to when you verse, like, New Zealand, Samoa, Tonga, those types of things, that maybe there's a bit more pressure and it's a bit more difficult. England, yeah, thank you. It becomes a bit more difficult, but at the same time, realistically, if you are picking the strongest side, there isn't that much more to it other than, like, getting their shape and setting their, what you're doing with that type of thing. I don't know. I think for him specifically, I'm going to say I think he's done. Once he's done with this, I think he's overcoaching, and I think it's fair enough because, he hasn't been too successful recently.
Yeah, I agree. So shout out to you, Desi boy.
Best of luck, mate.
Great career. See you again. I'll be very, very surprised. But if we were to see you again, I think the international arena may suit. That's it. That's all we've got time for. Thank you very much for listening. We'll be back this week with the Tuesday Supercoach show, and then Wednesday we'll be back doing the live show once again. It's Origin done and dusted, so you'll have us for the Wednesday shows now moving forward into the finals as well. Shout out to Caxton Street Brewing Company, major sponsor. Make sure if you're around the Brisbane area, go grab a drink, grab a feed. Great food, great drinks, the best in the biz. Thank you, Jakey boy. Thank you, everyone out there. Hit that like, subscribe button. We will see you during the week. Goodbye.